So, most of my songs are pretty short. So I decided I was going to write a song to cover some of the time. And the story ended up being kind of long. But I think it's actually a good counterpoint to Nazi Puncher. And, no, really. And I think it's an important story to tell right now. And it's true, and I'll say parts of it I'm not proud. But in the interest of not just getting off my chest, but hopefully having a lesson out there, here we go. It was the summer of 1982, and my parents decided it would be a good thing for me to go to summer camp. It was not something I wanted, had ever asked about or hinted at. And in fact, my idea of fun in the summer was, of course, sitting at home, reading, playing Atari, and eating an entire jar of peanut butter sitting one spoonful at a time. I know, you can't imagine why my parents wanted me to go to summer camp. But I eventually agreed to go, and that's how I ended up at Camp Erie, which is north of Frederick, Maryland, up in the hills. And I didn't know anyone else going, and I was beyond nervous because under the best circumstances, I wasn't social. And complicating things was they put me in a bunkhouse with younger kids, like 1 or 2 years younger, because I'd taken so long to make up my mind. And at 11 years old, I was already big for my age. So right away, I was worried about fitting in. Though being big was a good thing for me growing up, because it meant I was not physically bullied most of the time. Instead, I was mocked and bullied for my appearance, mostly my nose, and also for being weird, which, to be fair, was absolutely true. And that's a story for another time. The main thing is that just on size alone, I didn't think I was going to fit in. So when I arrived at the bunkhouse, I was early, and there were 2 other kids out talking on the porch and talking to each other. They seemed to know each other. And then I noticed that their noses looked a lot like mine. And it dawned on me why my parents sent me to this particular camp. To take that out of the equation, and I relaxed a little bit. And then they turned to me and smiled and came up and introduced themselves. And I relaxed a little bit more. And I don't remember their names. I remember they're from New Jersey, and we're just going to call them Richie and Ruben. And they had been coming to Camp Erie for years together. And they explained that there's a camp tradition where the new kids get to pick their bunks first. And they led me inside to a very choice spot and said, this is the best one, you should take this one. And I noticed there was already a duffel bag on it, and they said, well, how about that? They said, oh, don't worry, that's Martin's. And he knows the camp rules, we'll make sure he gets his bag, just go ahead. And I didn't want to disappoint or upset or question my cool new friends, Richie and Ruben, because they were cool. So I kind of let it slide. And shortly after that, my Foot Locker arrived and it had my snacks and my cracked magazines, my books, everything that I thought I needed for summer camp. It turned out to be mostly right. And the other kids arrived as I was settling in. And after a while, I noticed one particular kid staring at me from across the bunkhouse, laser eyes. And I noticed his bag by him. And I clicked that this was Martin. But before I could figure out why he might be angry at me, the camp counselor rounded everybody up to get the party started, and it just fled my mind. And I towered over all the other kids, like by twice. And so the camp counselor nicknamed me Stilts. And I liked it. And my cool new friends, Richie and Ruben, they spread that around and said, hey, let's call the new guy Stilts, he likes it. And what do you know? I had a nickname. It was not my last nickname, and it was not my first, but I was very glad that it stuck. And that's how it went as the week went along. Basketball, me, sport ball, no. But Richie and Ruben said, hey, you should come play with us. You should be the center. You should be on our team. For those who do not know basketball, being very tall is a great advantage. And we always won. And at lunch and dinner times, they always made sure that I was the first in line, because I was the big guy. And they were always right behind me. And in hindsight, it's pretty clear that what was going on was they were really doing things for themselves, and any benefit to me was incidental at best. But at the time, it was great. Back home, I was the last to be picked. Back home, I wasn't looked up to, and here I was, literally and figuratively. And it was all thanks to my cool new friends, Richie and Ruben. And if that were the whole story, it would be a flawed, if happy ending. But of course, there's one more important part of this to tell. A few days before the end of my camp there, Richie and Ruben reported to me that they knew who had been stealing snacks from my locker. And there had been some things that had gone missing, but I didn't think much of it. I had a lot, and if anyone ever asked, I was happy to share. But it was clear to me that Richie and Ruben felt like it was important that I do something about it. And at that moment, someone came into the room, and of course it was Martin, and Ruben said it was him. So all the kids gathered around, and if you've ever been in or seen a schoolyard fight, you know the terrible energy that spools up. I'd never been at the center of it. And I looked at Martin, and he didn't look scared, just angry. I don't know what had happened. I'm imagining a lot of the benefits that accrued to me maybe came out of Martin. And my immediate thought was that Richie and Ruben had lied to me and had said that Martin had done this to try to egg me on to beat him up. Which was funny to me in the first place because I basically spent my whole life avoiding conflict, and that somewhat continues, although the last song kind of says I've evolved somewhat. And I didn't have the first clue how to fight. What do I do? I have no idea what to do. And in fact, I'll skip that part. So I turned to Martin and I said, "Did you steal my snacks?" And to my surprise, I expected him to say no, but he just said, "Yeah, I did, and I'm not afraid of you." And I didn't know what to think. By this time, all the kids, they were in a frenzy. Fight, kick his ass, fight, yeah, I stole from you, fight. And I still had zero interest in fighting him. But for one brief moment, I got swept up, and I stepped forward, and I pushed Martin. He kind of staggered back, and he hit the wall and kind of crumpled down. I didn't think I pushed him that hard, and he didn't look like he'd been injured, but now there was real fear in his eyes. And I knew immediately that what I had done was deeply wrong. And I started to reach down to help him, but he recoiled. And the kids were in a frenzy now, fight. But I decided, the spell was broken at that point, and I broke the circle and I walked out into the woods. And Richie and Ruben didn't want to be around me after that, and that was fine by me. I never saw them or Martin ever again. For my part, if great power comes with great responsibility, I failed the test that day. But at least I learned what failure could look like. And I sometimes, and in these days, often think about what effect this had on Martin. I hope what he learned was that he stood up to a bully, and it turned out okay. I'm more confident about what lesson Richie and Ruben learned, and it wasn't a good one. That basically, you can manipulate people to get what you want. Which does not let me off the hook. I made my decision and I acted in that moment. And from that moment, I vowed that I would be a person that would stand up to bullies and never again become one. And there's also, I think, a wider lesson to be learned, especially right now. Whether out of self-interest or under pressure, even those who consider themselves to be thoughtful and decent people can make bad choices that hurt others. And I hope you'll remember this story if you or someone you know someday finds yourself in the same position. Thank you.